This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Welcome, Talk Catholic, the website.com, your host, Tim Kilcoyne. No agendas here, just the straight and narrow, through Mary to Jesus, the Catholic faith proclaimed and preserved. Hope to see you here every week.
Please be advised that this show may not be appropriate for children under 13.
This is WQPH Radio 89.3 FM, Talk Catholic, Tim Kilcoyne, and I have a lovely lady of life, Terry Beatley of the Hosea Initiative. And Terry's going to give us a little intro to herself, first and foremost, spiritually, I hope, as well, and how she embarked upon this novel ministry of education in honor of Dr. Bernard Nathanson. I hope everybody knows that name. You will at the end of the show. Terry, welcome. It's all yours. Where would you like to start?
Well, I guess I should start with your question, but first off, thank you for the interview, and I hope all of your listeners can really walk away with some new information, to be inspired, to be full of hope, and from learning about the legacy of Dr. Bernard Nathanson. He was the former America's abortion king who became 100% radically pro-life, and then later on, he became a baptized Roman Catholic at St. Patrick's Cathedral.
It doesn't get better than that. How many abortions did he do?
He was personally responsible for 75,000 abortions.
Wow.
He personally aborted 5,000 babies himself with his own hands. Then he taught doctors how to kill children on another 10,000 babies. And then he ran the largest abortion facility. We do not call them clinics, okay? A largest abortion facility in the Western Hemisphere. And he became known as, the nickname was the Abortion King. He co-founded NARAL Pro-Choice America, which was the first pro-abortion political action organization. But his legacy can convert hearts and minds to pro-life. His legacy, I believe, when it becomes widely known, one heart at a time, will lead millions of people to repent for their apathy and or their participation with abortion, which includes voting for pro-abortion candidates, not just having abortions, not just driving your girlfriend or your wife to go have an abortion. It also includes voting for pro-abortion, have no problem killing a baby coming down the birth canal candidate.
Yeah. It sounds a similar Abby Johnson kind of story in a sense, real conversion.
Well, it's interesting. Abby has made it known that the first book she read after she had her pro-life conversion was the autobiography of Dr. Nathanson.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Called The Hand of God. So, long before Abby's pro-life conversion came the pro-life conversion, later Catholic conversion, of the father of the abortion industry. And God is not done with his legacy. I believe we're watching Romans 8:28 literally be lived out in front of our eyes, that all things work together for good to those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. And that includes the father of the abortion industry who became pro-life and became Catholic.
Yes.
And nobody knows.
And it's all about what we put before the eyes, is it not? I should share quickly that story that you're anxious to hear, I'm sure, about my teaching the 17-year-olds out in California. And this is 1990-ish, and I think I might have been a pioneer in taking out an old VHS cassette of the Silent Scream. And prior to viewing that, I would say that, because I was reading the essays, correcting them, etc., after the viewing, and so many of the students had said something to the effect that, well, I was definitely pro-choice before that video, but never again. That was the overwhelming response by the class of 33 or so in five different classes. It was overwhelming, but as usual, you always get the skeptic in the audience. And this, I can still see him, and I remember his first name was Alex. He waited for everybody to leave the classroom, and then he said to me, "Well, I guess you're probably in favor of killing the doctors." I said, "Alex, I just saw a video with a little fetus whose heart rate was going at 60 beats per minute, and then just a moment or two later, that heartbeat went up to 180, and just another minute later or less, there was nothing to be seen. What did you see?" And that was silence, as you can only imagine. And he rushed out of the classroom. What did you see? Let's just keep it to the scientific. Yes, I'm a theology teacher. I stand up for the church's teachings relative to life. And that's why I was showing that, especially to 17-year-olds who aren't into phony baloney. They want meat and potatoes and straight coming at you. So there it was in black and white, a little blurry, but you could see what was going on. And clearly Dr. Nathanson saw what was going on. And what's amazing to me is I was actually looking in a book, I think it was a Peter Kreeft book on the 3 approaches to abortion, that we have yet to see anything on TV, relative to the silent scream. Has it ever been shown on, mainstream type TV of any kind, cable or otherwise?
No. And
unbelievable.
And
we can see Friday the 13th stuff and stuff that even goes way beyond that, right? But we can't see that, a blurry image of a black and white. Wow.
And here's something even a bit more audacious in a way, because the communication laws, it's the Communication Act of 1934, where broadcast TV and radio must provide reasonable access to airtime for legally qualified federal candidates, and they cannot censor ads. And God bless Randall Terry, who's purposely, run for different offices. So, and he would exercise the full extent of the law, and he would show, aborted babies. In his TV advertising, because it's the law. He can do that.
Okay.
Now, that for candidates, but the law is the law. That's a federal FCC law.
Right.
But for nonprofit organizations, like if I wanted to go out as president of Hosea Initiative and show the silent scream and all, no, they can censor and they can put great restrictions on what a nonprofit can do.
I see.
But now, so therein lies another problem. Well, wait a minute, these candidates who say they're pro-life, then why the heck aren't they all doing it? Because they could do it.
Right.
And the problem is because they don't know how to win. Now, Hosea Initiative is a nonprofit educational organization. I have a PAC, but it's funny because it's like the winning strategy is let's get Americans educated with the truth that Dr. Bernard Nathanson left behind. He was the father of the industry. He was the medical face. He was the Dr. Fauci of healthcare. Lying. Not Dr. Fauci would put on the white lab coat, stand in front of the media. Tim, that's the same thing Dr. Nathanson would do, and he would spew the most audacious lies, just like Dr. Anthony Fauci did.
Keep going. Keep going. There's an intellectual. I was just doing a book review and reading from Bill Donahoe's new book, Christianity at the Crosshairs, and he's talking so much. He's really zoned in on the academic elites and the arrogance, the condescension, etc., that is so pervasive, especially in the medical profession, but all throughout our universities, etc., etc. It's, as I put it, the Sanhedrin is in every era, our Lord stayed away from those kind of people and chose fishermen. There's a reason why our Lord did that, so go ahead. But that's, you run into that kind of smirky arrogance kind of thing is just it's part of the intelligentsia. It always has been, I believe.
Well, I got two angles on intellectual honesty. One is when I think we need to go ahead and cover this part. What converted Dr. Bernard Nathanson to the pro-life side. You know, what was it? Was it just guilt? Well, now, he was a full-throttle, 100% atheist, which I could talk for a long time about that, his childhood, but we don't have time for all that. But he grew up in a very emotionally brutal childhood where his father hated his mother. It had been an arranged Jewish marriage, and I just have to let that rest or it'll take too much time to explain. But and his father was an OBGYN as well, general practitioner, and those also did like OBGYN back then. It wasn't like a specialized field. Well, when Bernard was in medical school, he was in love with one of his many girlfriends, but he did consider he truly loved this young woman, and he did everything wrong, and he got her pregnant with child, and he was freaking out because here he was in med school and he's trying to live up to his father's expectations, and his father he reaches out to his father gives him the money to get an illegal abortion performed. Now, this was in Canada. The girlfriend almost dies from hemorrhaging, and that, in his own words, that was his beginning of his satanic entry into the abortion industry. I'm paraphrasing, but he does use the word satanic. He stepped into the satanic world of the abortion industry. Okay, so that was his beginning, and then later on he impregnated another girlfriend, but this time he aborted his own child with his own hands.
Oh boy.
Okay.
Wow.
So then years went on. Now he co-founds what's called today NARAL, N-A-R-A-L, the National Association for the Repeal of Abortion Laws. It was a political action organization. They knew they had a political victory if they were going, or as they launched the abortion revolution onto America. Okay, because he says in his own writings, and he told me that on the interview on December 1st, 2009. That when they were pushing for the legalization of abortion, and he stood in front of the media, just like Dr. Fauci did, he would tell the media that 60% of Americans want abortion on demand legalized. And the real number, and he has this in the book called Abortion Papers, and he told me, he said back then it was really only 0.1% of Americans wanted abortion on demand legalized.
Sounds like Parent School of 62. Same thing. No national outcry. They just make it up.
Right.
Amazing.
So let me lead up here to his conversion. It's so important for your listeners to know, in case they don't know. So now he's the Fauci, he's the doctor leading the pro-abortion movement in the late 60s, early 70s. 70, 71, 72. He's also running the largest abortion mill until December of 1972. So in that time frame, he becomes personally responsible for the death of 75,000 babies. And then so now we get Roe v. Wade, January of 1973. He quits being the medical director of this largest abortion mill in New York City. It was largest in the Western Hemisphere, but it's located in New York City. And he goes to become the chief of obstetrics at St. Luke's Hospital in New York City. Now, don't let the name fool you. It's a Catholic established hospital, St. Luke. They were aborting babies on one floor and birthing them on another floor.
Oh, my God.
And he said the most whipsaw thing was arriving to kill a baby, let's say at 22 weeks, if it is 22 weeks, but then on the floor upstairs, trying to save a baby at 22 weeks whose mother was going into premature labor. So he derived some way, am I there to kill or am I there to save?
Right.
So, and he told me, he said he doesn't remember when, but it was within something like the first 6 months or so. The hospital rolls in a brand new technology called real-time ultrasound. And for the first time in his medical career, he could see the baby moving, wiggling, sucking her thumb, yawning, stretching, and he begins, in his own words, to bond with the baby as well as the mother. He was already bonding with the mother,
Yes.
but he began bonding with the baby as well, and he recognized that he had a second patient, the baby in the womb. So the science had caught up with all these liars and thieves and the communists, quite frankly, who started this abortion revolution, because his business partner was Lawrence Lader. And I would not describe Nathanson as a communist. He just thought he was doing the right thing for women.
Right.
But Lawrence Lader, I believe, was a full-blown communist. He worked for the first card-carrying communists on Capitol Hill.
How to divide.
Some congressman. Yeah. And so that was, so by, here, check this out, by in the year we get Roe v. Wade, he's actually beginning his pro-life conversion.
I see.
And by 1979, Dr. Nathanson he was still an atheist, okay, but he was 100% pro-life.
Wow.
He was trying to figure out how early could they remove the baby from the womb, put the baby in some kind of an incubator, and to be able to meet the mother's wishes, like, I don't want this baby, but still keep the baby alive and not pull the head off the baby, the arms off the baby, the legs off the baby. He's like, how can we meet the mother's needs? So literally that's where he was at.
Wow.
And God he was never out of the reach of God. So what happens is a few years later, and this is what you were talking about, the Silent Scream movie, which, by the way, is still out on YouTube.
It is out there.
The last time I looked, but if people want to see it, they got to type in The Silent Scream, Dr. Nathanson, because there are other movies called The Silent Scream.
Okay.
Terry, hold that thought. When we come back, we'll hear more about the journey of Dr. Nathanson now that he's pro-life. This is WQPH Radio 89.3 FM.
Please be advised that this show may not be appropriate for children under 13.
So what happens then is, so now it's like early 80s. Dr. Nathanson, pretty much throughout the 80s, considered himself suicidal, particularly after making the discovery. What the Silent Scream video revealed is this little baby. According to Nathanson, the baby was 12 weeks old, a little fetus. 12 weeks old. We call babies fetuses, young living child. That doesn't mean less than human, right? The pro-abortion side uses the word fetus as if it's less than human. No, that's Latin, meaning young living child. So they filmed. Dr. Nathanson asked an abortionist friend of his from New Jersey if he would film a 12-week first trimester abortion with real-time ultrasound video footage. And then together, the abortionist plus Dr. Nathanson, who at that point was no longer doing abortions, and the nurse who worked at the facility, they all sat down and watched this raw footage. And what Dr. Nathanson saw was what you just described, but then he has this famous quote that what he saw was a child threatened, I get choked up every time I say it. What he saw was a child threatened imminently with extinction, who opens his or her mouth in a silent scream. And that is what that raw video, real-time ultrasound showed. So here's our dilemma. One of the many parts of the dilemma is we as Americans, we as Catholics, millions of Catholics, any Catholic who could cast a vote for Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, okay? I call a spade, and I'll call another spade, the USCCB. In 2017, first I got to finish that sentence. Hillary Clinton, when she ran again, and again, I'm non-political with Hosea initiative, we educate.
Right.
But we educate to try to get people to support pro-life in all ways.
Right.
All ways, including, good Lord, vote for people who at least will say they're pro-life and then try to force them to be it, to vote that way, right?
Exactly.
We can't support or advocate for candidates. So let's be very clear on something. Hillary Clinton made it clear that she had no problem aborting a baby coming down the birth canal.
Yeah.
Right, now this goes back to 2016, okay?
Yeah.
In that third debate.
Yeah.
And there's Donald Trump. Now, nobody believed he was, pro-life, but we were at least hoping, because he looked at Hillary Clinton. He said, that may be okay with you, but that's not okay with me.
Exactly.
All right? Well, it's like, well, okay, well, okay, so be that as it may. So now let's talk about the USCCB.
By the way, just relative to the politics of it all, I'm looking at a book, What to Say When, by Sean Kearney and Steve Carlin. Mm-hmm. And relative to what you're saying, just to give you an idea, it all began to change, as we all know, back in '73, but it didn't really become, part of the Democratic Party platform until around 1980. And Bill Clinton was very well known for his safe, legal, and rare position. But by 2020, the platform basically was adding expanded delivery of abortion pills, which are often distributed without an abortion client ever being examined by a doctor, funding for abortion in developing countries, population control, eliminating conscience protection for healthcare providers. It says the outlook for pro-life Democrats going forward is grim, as the Democratic caucus has been nearly entirely purged of pro-lifers. The party of the little guy is waging total war on the littlest of guys. Unbelievable.
Right.
Okay, go ahead now to the bishops, and may I just say, most Catholics were Democrats, as my family was, and everybody in Massachusetts practically was. And look at the state of things relative to abortion in Massachusetts at the current time. How does it get that way? Well, God's people are not being fed. It comes from the top. Go ahead. It
does, and I hope you'll have time for me to explain the Catholic strategy, which was the 8th point of Dr. Nathanson's propaganda to deceive millions of Catholics. But I agree with you. Let's start first with the USCCB.
Yep.
So I think there was a very profound, I'm going to call it a litmus test, in 2017, which happens to be, when this came out, my big book called What If We've Been Wrong came out like July or August of 2016.
Okay.
In 2017, I reached out, because we were going to do a reprint, I reached out to the brand new USCCB Pro-Life Activities Chairman, and that's Archbishop Joseph Naumann, out of the Archdiocese of Kansas City, Kansas. So, and I encourage people to write this down. 96 verses 82. 96 verses 82. Two people were running, because that's a voted-in position. Okay?
Yeah.
The bishops have to vote. Who's going to be the USCCB Pro-Life Activities Chairman? Well, two bishops were running. Naumann versus Cardinal Supich.
Oh, I'm going to bite my tongue. Go ahead.
Right. I bet you haven't had Supich on your show. So there's Supich, who is softball when it comes to pro-life. He's a Democrat Party communist operative, in my opinion. He is for homosexual marriage, and I think all sorts of other things, laundry.
I'm sure it's the whole liberal agenda.
God, yes, which is a communist agenda. It is to destroy life, to destroy family, to destroy the authority of the Catholic Church, particularly on moral issues. So the vote came in. 96 bishops, praise God. They chose Archbishop Naumann. I remember when this vote was going on, I was so deeply in prayer, just praying we would come out with a favor of Archbishop Naumann. And I'm going to give you the fruit of what Archbishop Naumann did. That man had a spine, such a strong spine, and I'll give you the details, because every Catholic across America should know. And he said, Terry, what is it that you want? And I said, Archbishop Naumann, thank you for asking. And I said, I would like for you to consider endorsing my big book, What If We've Been Wrong, as well as endorsing the mission of Hosea Initiative. And he said, okay, give me your book, give me 2 weeks, and then I will let you know. And if so, I will send you probably 2 separate endorsements. And he did.
Beautiful.
Oh my gosh. I got a big book, and then we got these little fact check booklets.
Yeah.
See, when I interviewed Nathanson, what he commissioned me to do on December 1st, 2009 was, he was 83 years old, dying of cancer. He looked like he was going to live no more than 2 more months.
Yeah.
He did live longer than that. But I asked Dr. Nathanson, I said, if you have a message for America, and if you tell me what it is, I promise you I'll deliver it across our nation until it becomes common knowledge, or until Roe v. Wade is overturned, or I die, whichever one comes first. And I had no idea, Tim, as Dr. Nathanson, who was so remorseful for this culture of death he was leaving behind, I didn't know if he was just going to say, Terry, look, my day is done. Yeah, you pro-lifers take it from here. But he didn't. He looked up at me and he said, teach the strategy of how I deceived America. And then tell America that the co-founder of NARAL says to love one another. Abortion is not love. Stop the killing. The world needs more love.
What the world needs now is real love. And we'll get back to a part 2 with Terry Beatley in the second part of next week's show. Do check out her website, Hosea, 4u.org, and read about the upcoming special October 11th, a day of prayer, penance, and reparation for our apathy regarding this issue, with multiple denominations joining hands for our children. This is WQPH Radio 89.3 FM. Have a great week. Let your light shine. That is what it's all about here at WQPH Radio 89.3 FM. But we need to hear your story. You want your voice to be his voice. That is making the faith known to others. Please, my number is 877-625-3727. Tim Kilcoyne, TalkCatholic.com. St. Mother Teresa told us, your ministry is your work right where you are. Grab on to this microphone. God bless.